Hey legends, welcome back to a new episode of the Hellmouth Hotline. I'm your host, Rodney Stewart. We're getting on the Buffy the Vampire Slayer in this episode. And now this is a weird title for an episode. It's called Never Kill a Boy on the First Date. And if, like me, you're probably thinking to yourself, I'll skip over this one, doesn't sound that good. And, you know, it's not the best of the series, but it is a very, very much a key episode for season 1, so definitely check it out. Hope you enjoy the show, and let's get into it. This one's called Never Kill a Boy on the First Date. Now, just from that title alone, I was like, oh gosh, it's going to be one of these episodes where we break off the main story once again, and it's going to be about Buffy wanting to go on a date and whatnot, which isn't so far from the truth. That is what the episode's about. But this, out of everything so far, this is the first one that gives you a chunk of what's going to happen later on in the series, and beautifully done, by the way. So we start off, Buffy's out training with Giles. She kills a vampire, but she's giving it that there. And Giles, he's giving her grief, and you're wasting too much time. You should just make the kill, move on to the next vampire, and stop, letting your guard down. This can come back and bite you in the ass one day. And Buffy's just kind of like being her usual teenage self and joking about and whatnot. Doesn't seem to be taking it seriously at all. This is driving Giles a little bit crazy. And while this vampire's been killed at, he finds this ring in the ground. He lifts it up and he's like, I'm going to have to go and check this here out. This looks like it could be important. And as is with everything with Giles, everything's of some importance. So he gets the ring, off he goes to check it out. We see the Master, we cut over to the Master. He's talking out of this book, and it's like a prophecy of what's to come and his plans. There's a lot of that in the Master this here. He's like reading these prophecies and whatnot. He's talking about the Anointed One. 5 will die, and from their ashes he will rise. The brethren of Aurelius will greet him and usher him to his destiny, and he shall lead the Slayer into hell, and she will not know him, and all this. Here, I'm actually quite surprised that I remembered all that. So anyway, the episode opens up, and of course Giles has this ring, and he figures out that it's from the Order of Aurelius, and this is the order that the Master was talking about in the prophecy. And while he's talking to Buffy about this here, this guy Owen turns up. Buffy melts, and Giles is just like, oh gosh. And Buffy obviously wants to go on a date with this kid. I am just talking away here, and I'm actually thinking I didn't turn this microphone on. Sorry, the microphone is on, thank goodness, because the start of this video was pretty damn good and I didn't want to re-record that there whatsoever. Anyway, there's a lot of the episode where there's back and forth between Willow and Buffy and Xander, but this guy Owen is so nice, blah blah blah, I want to go on a date with him. And I'm just realising there's so many sound bites from these videos that people could record of me and put them on something else sounding really nasty. Anyway, Buffy wants to sit with him at lunch. This guy turns up lunchtime. She wants to go and sit with him. Cordelia breaks into the middle of them, tries to get in her place. It seems to be a running thing with Cordelia. If Buffy is interested in a man, Cordelia will try to go in there, swoop in and try and steal him out of Buffy's hands just to annoy her, sort of thing. But your guy's not interested in Cordelia whatsoever, gives her the cold shoulder, which doesn't go down well at all. We go back to Giles. He's still trying to work out what this ring is and the Order of Aurelius, and he finds references to the Anointed One, and he figures it out that tonight is the night this is going to happen. And it's wonderful the way that in a lot of episodes they find a prophecy that just so happens to be happening on the night that they find it, and blah blah blah. It's classic TV. It's brilliant. And yes, so The problem with that is he's already agreed to let Buffy go on a date with this guy Owen, even though he thinks it's a bad idea. But the Slayer doesn't have time for dating, blah blah blah, whatnot. So he gets her to cancel the date, and they end up in the graveyard sitting all night waiting to see if someone's going to, like, if a vampire's going to rise from a coffin. You know, if a vampire rises, this is going to be the anointed one, which is Giles' thought process here. And you know, it doesn't happen, so Buffy leaves. She goes to the bronze, sees your guy Owen dancing with Cordelia. She's all heartbroken and leaves. But Giles, he's all kind of, you know, I can't work out why I got this so wrong. I actually thought it was tonight. So we cut over, there's this bus driving down the road full of passengers. There's this crazy guy in the back, and he's going over all this religious stuff about the end of days and blah blah, this, that and the other, and he's like freaking everybody out. There's a kid sitting there, he's freaked out, and you know, it's just one of these characters that just seems that there's something off with him. It seems like he's not all there. Before this bus gets to its destination, it's attacked by vampires, and you know, this vampire walks out in the middle of the street, gets hit by the bus, and you know, the bus sort of crashes into a lamppost, and the driver jumps out, checks the passengers is okay first, goes out and sees. He doesn't know it's a vampire, just thinks he's had a guy in the street, and he runs out to see if he's okay. The guy jumps up, bites him, kills him, and everybody and the bus gets massacred. The next day, Buffy's freaking out because of what happened the night before, between what you've seen between Owen and Cordelia. You know, screwed it up, he doesn't want anything to do with me now, blah blah blah, this, that and the other. And you know, you can see this jealousy popping up on Xander again. He's always on the verge of, like, you know, if you want to go out with someone, go out with me, I'm the guy of your dreams, more or less. And of course, before he gets a chance to say something again, this guy Owen turns up and explains what happened the night before. You know, Cordelia was just very pushy, had danced with her a couple of times, that was it, nothing else happened. So he gets Buffy to agree to another date this night, and that's all fine and well. We cut back to the Master, and he's congratulating a few vampires on the job well done. So everything's not really matching up here at this point. Honestly, I did get lost at this point. What is he congratulating these guys for? And that's just calling it was one of the guys that attacked the bus. But the vampires are back, and they're getting congratulated. You know, what have they done, sort of thing. So you know, we get back. Buffy's getting ready for a date and whatnot. She's all set to go. Xander and Willow are at the house, and Owen's coming to meet them. There's a knock at the door. Buffy runs down to answer. It's not your man, Owen. It's not Owen. It is Giles. Giles has figured it out. I've screwed it up. I was wrong. It wasn't last night. It was tonight. And then there's a whole argument about, you know, I gave up last night to go and sit in a graveyard. Nothing happened, and you want me to give up my plans tonight again? You know, Buffy's just been a bit of a little bitch in this episode, because she just, you know, she wants to go on a date with this guy, and she's not going to let anybody get in the way of it. But you know, your guy Owen turns up, and then, you know, all the walls start coming up again, like the secrecy, or like, we're not allowed people, like, enough people know Buffy's the Slayer, without letting more people know. And you know, eventually she gets out for the date, and reluctantly Giles agrees, but you know, if something happens, we'll be getting in contact with you. Giles disappears off to the funeral home, because the reason he came to the house was he read in the news that there was 5 people died in this bus crash, and the prophecy talked about from the ashes of 5, and this could be it. So off he goes to check that out, and you know, Willow and Xander follow him to make sure he's okay. Gets into the place after being met by vampires at the door. The vampires also coming to the funeral home. So he's in there, he gets trapped. Long story short, I'm not going to go beat for beat on this here, but he ends up getting trapped in the place, and he's cornered in a room in the back of the funeral home, and blockades the door. There's a knock at the window. That's Willow and Xander. We're going to go and get Buffy. So they disappear off to the bronze, hoping Giles is going to be safe. They get there. Cordelia is giving Buffy the evil eye because she's with this guy Owen. What the hell is wrong with all the men in this town? And well, she's given that kind of abuse, not to Buffy, to one of her mates talking about Buffy, more or less. Door opens up. Angel walks in, and Cordelia, forgets what's happening with Buffy. She's like, oh ho, here's a man for me now. So she steps forward to go and start chatting Angel up. Before she gets there, Angel chomps across to Buffy, and Cordelia's like, what the hell's going on in this town with all these men and her? So Angel walks over to Buffy just as Owen goes off to get the two of them a drink, and he's there to warn her about the Anointed One. And Buffy's just kind of like at the end of her tether at this point. She's just like, people just leave me alone. I've heard about this here. If it happens, it'll be dealt with, blah blah blah. Just leave me alone. I want to do my thing tonight. This is about me, and this is about Owen. We're out to have a good time. I don't care what you have to say, more or less. Again, just been a little bitch. So of course this guy Owen comes back, and there's the awkward moment between the three of them. And because even though it doesn't come up so much on this episode, but there is something between Buffy and Angel at this point. So Buffy introduces the two of them. It's like he's just leaving, more or less, blah blah blah. And then at this point, Willow and Xander bounce in, and of course they can't give away anything in front of Owen, so they're trying to talk in code about the funeral home. Then Buffy starts thinking, and Giles is in trouble, I need to go and help him. So she excuses herself, gets out of there. We'll make this happen sometime. In the background, Angel is in, Buffy and Owen are in the foreground of the shot, and between the two of them, standing off in the distance, is Angel taking it all in. And Buffy walks out of frame, and then she comes back in the frame, gives your man Owen kissing the lips, disappears off again. I think it's more or less just as a to stick it to Angel more than anything else. So off she goes, gets to the funeral home, and as they get there, her, Willow and Xander, door opens up. Owen has followed them there. So there's a whole thing now where they're trying to keep him out of the way when she's looking for Giles. She can't let him know that Giles is there, because that'll just raise even more questions than what he already has. He thinks they're just there to break in, have a little bit of fun, it'll be fun to sneak in here and not get caught, sort of thing. And Willow and Xander take him off to a room on their own. Willow finds Giles, he's safe enough, he's hidden, and while she's with Giles, they decide to search a little bit, see if they can find any clues about this Anointed One. In the room where Willow, Xander and Owen are hiding at, there's a room off side of them. Listen, awful noise outside this house. Yes, there's a room off side of them, and Owen pulls this here rope, and the curtains open up. Glass window on the other side, there's a corpse on a table, and he's like, oh, I've never seen a dead body before. Then he pauses. Are they supposed to do that? And you can see the hands starting to move, and the corpse sits up. Fresh vampire. First things into your head, Anointed One. That's the crazy guy that was talking all the doomsday religious stuff on the bus, and he jumps up and he's still giving it that. He's been judged, and I'm going to judge you because he judged me, blah blah blah. He goes for them. So Buffy runs in to try and save the day. She gets knocked over in the fight. Owen tries to jump in to save her, your guy, the vampire. Opens up this here, the metal doors where they keep the corpses at. They open up the thing and they slide the table out where the corpses at. That door there is 2 or 3 of them, a different level. He'll get your guy up, brings one of these doors around, whacks him that there, drops him to the floor, and he's like dead. At this point, Buffy loses the plot. It's like, you've killed my date, and she gets tore into him, kicking the life out of him. But your guy's on the floor. Owen's grand, no problem at all. He's just stunned. He's starting to wake up a little bit. So Willow's trying to tell her it's okay, he's not dead. But Xander stops her. You know, she's angry as hell here. Let her use that. Let her beat this vampire. So she does. There's the crematorium is in there, the furnace, and she ends up throwing the vampire into that there. Giles slams the door. Was it Giles? Or was it... No, Xander, sorry. Giles is hiding. Giles can't be seen by Owen. He gets launched into the furnace. Vampire dead. The Anointed One is sorted, or so we do believe at this point. So the next day, what's going to happen with Buffy now? Because it didn't end off well with Owen. He's just kind of like he doesn't understand what just happened, and he kind of leaves, and Xander takes him home, all stunned, and Buffy's kind of like, no, that's it. He's never going to want to see me again, sort of thing. So the following day, she's walking through the schoolyard, and Owen turns up, and Buffy thinks this is going to be the awkward breakup conversation from him, and she's like, I'm sorry, but last night, and he's like, oh no, it's okay, it's grand, can I see you again? So she's kind of blew away by everything he's seen last night, and he wants to go on another date, more or less. Like, what the heck's his problem? So before she gets a chance to say yes, you can see the sort of the excitement in her face. He jumps in and he says, last night was brilliant, the adrenaline rush was amazing, we should do something like that again tonight. We can go downtown and pick a fight with some random strangers. It's more or less the adrenaline junkie that's come out on him. And at that, Buffy's like, it sinks in, you see it in her face. Like Sarah Michelle Gellar in this series as Buffy, the facial expressions alone and some of the acting she does is amazing, and you can see it dawning on Buffy's face that maybe dating isn't what I can do as the Slayer, because I'm going to get, this guy comes, if it's anything like last night, he's going to get killed, it'll be my fault, it's not fair. So we do have a breakup conversation, and it is Buffy that gives it. She's just like, I can't date you, more or less. And he walks off, and she just, we'll still be friends, sort of thing. It's the conversation that I have heard millions of times in my life. I like you, but we just want to be friends, and that's it. So yes, me, friend zone forever. So that's it. Episode's over. The Anointed One has been killed. Everything's fine and well. Giles has marked up another one to the good guys. We cut back to the Master. He's going over the prophecy again. Like, you cut into this at the end of the episode, and you're expecting the Master to be angry and wrecking the lair, and it's like, you failed me and whatnot, but he's sitting in his little throne and he's all calm, and he's going over the Anointed One's speech again. From the ashes of 5 he will rise, the brethren of Aurelius will usher him to his destiny, and she will not know him, and he will lead her into hell. And the camera pans across, and we see the Anointed One. It's the kid that was on the bus earlier, the kid that was freaked out at the crazy religious nonsense of the crazy guy in the bus. The little kid that was freaked out, was massacred in the bus, has now been turned into a vampire, and he is the Anointed One. We close out the episode. Beautifully done. As I said at the start, it's one of these episodes where you kind of think this is going to be one of these run-of-the-mill standalone stories, which in a way it kind of was with the whole dating malarkey and whatnot, but then you get this thrown in at the very end, who the Anointed One is, and I didn't see it coming the first time I seen the series, and honestly again watching it freshly after what It could be more than 15 years at this point since I seen episode 1. Series 1. Since I seen this series, 15 years easily. And again, like normally, I sit down to the episodes in these series and I'll get about 20 minutes in and the whole thing comes back to me. I completely forgot how this one ended. Beautifully done, fantastic series. Starting to heat up now. It just gets better and better from here on in. This has been a production of Coins Edge Media. Check out my social media links in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening.